Welcome to Better Health Guy Blogcasts, empowering your better health. And now, here's Scott, your Better Health Guy. The content of this show is for informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. Nothing in today's discussion is meant to serve as medical advice or as information to facilitate self-treatment. As always, please discuss any potential health-related decisions with your own personal medical authority.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 53 of the Better Health Guy blogcast series. Today's guest is Patrick Durkin, and the topic of the show is water for health. A calling to make plastic water bottles obsolete has turned into a life dedicated to creating a world of love and oneness. Fueled by unrelenting passion, Patrick Durkin is on a mission to uplift humanity. He will support you to awaken your superpowers through immersion in living water, quantum physics, and loving all that is. He is the founder of the Wellness Enterprise Incorporated, the Structured Water Superstore, Water Magic 101, GodSelf University, and Jivara Structured Water Devices. And now my interview with Patrick Durkin. So this is a topic that I am personally really excited to learn about, and I suspect it will change some of my own perspective and what I'm doing in the realm of optimizing water to support my own health and wellness. So I'm so excited to hear what we'll learn today from Patrick. So welcome to the show, Patrick.
Oh, thanks. It's so good to be here with you.
Thank you. So what drew you into the realm of looking at the health impacts of water on the body? Did you have some kind of personal health journey yourself that led you to doing the work that you're so passionate about today?
You know, I did have a health journey, and it was the environmental part and the health part together that pulled me in. So what happened was I was a financial advisor, and I had really poor health. My gut was destroyed. I didn't know it at the time, but I was using my gut to channel the stock market. You talk about having a gut feel.
Wow.
Well, I had a gut feel, and I was simultaneously the chairman of the recycling committee in my town. And I bought out a showing of An Inconvenient Truth. Remember Al Gore's documentary?
I do, yeah.
And we filled it. And there was all this enthusiasm for this green topic. And I met people that I was like, wow, those are my kind of people. I want to be around them. And my partners were like, well, we want to network with lawyers and CPAs. And I was like, well, I want to network with alternative health providers. And so we split. And why alternative health providers is that's who helped me regain my health. So by the time I became aware of the water piece, I had probably healed over 80%. And I went to a presentation on alkaline water, and they said, you can change the pH of your body by changing the water you drink. And I knew I was acidic, and I was like, okay, that's it, I'm in. Let's go. But it was really my desire to get rid of plastic bottles that had me. There's a passion that I feel that I've since learned is fairly uncommon, and it's just deep and unending. And it has me want to know everything that I would have to know and become, so that when people heard me speak like this, they would say, "That guy's got the solution in the plastic bottle industry. Let's listen to him."
Nice. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are the impacts of plastic bottles on our own health, but then also on the environment? And then what are some of your thoughts on how we reduce our use of plastic bottles?
Well, the impacts on the environment are vicious. I mean, there are now not just one trash gyre, but 6. And what a gyre is a place in the ocean where the winds and the currents bring our trash together. And some of them are bigger than the state of Texas.
Wow.
Right? So picture just degrading floating plastic going down through the water column, that large out there in the middle of the ocean. And we have a half a dozen of those now. Now, I was recently getting prepared for a talk, and I decided to kind of revisit my 7 and 8-year-old research. And I found something startling, which is that plastic has now passed through into the whole system. It's not just poisoning fish, but it's poisoning people now. And what I found was there were tests done globally, And in the US, their locations included the Trump Tower, the Congressional Building, and the US EPA office. And what they found, I don't remember the exact number, it was over 84%. I think there was one number that was 84 and one that was 93. It was very, very high numbers. Percentage of water in the United States that has microplastics in it that are so small that when you drink it, it penetrates your organs. They're nanoparticles. So basically, like, we're living in toxic soup, and it's everywhere. And so the implications are enormous. So there's two things that I see that we have to do to take care of this problem. The first is we have to take advantage of the resources we already have and maximize them. So last time I checked, every house I went to in the United States had a pipe coming up into the house carrying water. So that water can be revitalized to a really high quality water. So one is to appreciate the infrastructure that we've already labored for as a culture. And then the second is much harder because it's not convenient, and it's not one of these things that people like to do. But what we have to do is we have to change the way we think, and we have to change the way we act. And we have to say, well, geez, just because that product is convenient, or that's disposable, or that's easy for me, that doesn't work, because I see the world through oneness, and there is no such thing as throwing something away. So we have to change our thinking so that there is no such place as over there, and we treat the impact of all of our own behaviors as impactful on the earth and something that we do have the power to change.
So do you recommend then that people have their own glass bottles and just fill it up before they leave their homes and do it that way?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to maximize the resource that you have, that pipe that comes into your house is bringing you water most likely for a penny a gallon. So now maybe you spend a couple more pennies treating it per gallon. But now that you have it, I use a glass bottle, and, I knew we were going to be talking for a while. So I have two.
Nice.
Because I'm not going to run out of water. And when I leave the house, I either take one of those, two of those, or I just take a gallon. And I have a beautiful gallon bottle, and I'm off and running. And if I'm going somewhere and I'm going to be picking up one of my 4 kids from an athletic contest, then I definitely take multiple bottles, because I know the first thing they do is hit my water. So
plus, that the quality of the water then is going to be better than what you get buying bottled water in plastic bottles, right? I mean, I think the quality of that water is not great. Even if you take the plastic bottle aside, a lot of times it's just bottled, city municipal water that hasn't really even got any health-giving properties, right?
The last time I did the research on it, 44% of bottled water was just municipal water. So they literally took it out of somebody's tap, just like mine. So,
right.
Yeah, the spelling of Evian water, if we take it backwards, is naive.
Nice. So talk to us a little bit about why water is so critical in terms of supporting our health. Is it primarily that the water is hydrating us at a cellular level, or are there other qualities of water that are also helpful in optimizing our health? Why is it that water quality matters?
Well, we'll start with the prevalence and the importance of it. Like, everybody has a statistic, particularly well-meaning health professionals. They're like 50% of my body's water, 70%, 90%. You hear all the different numbers, more 70 and 90. And the real research is that it's 95% when you're born, and then you begin dehydrating. And so if you live to be a ripe old prune, so to speak, like you come in like a plum and you move all the way to prune, you're at like 50% water. So guys like you and me, maybe we're 70% or something like that, but it's a moving target. But that's not the number I like to look at. The number I like to look at comes from Dr. Gerald Pollack at the University of Washington. His book, The Fourth Phase of Water, new out in 2013, really important book in the industry. And what he taught us is that 99% of our molecules, by counting the molecules, not by volume, but by actual number, are water. So let's think about that for a minute, Scott. You and I are water molecules. So if we have a process, I mean, perfect way to show you is, I have 4 kids. And over the years, they've heard a lot more than their share of stories about water. And they've also been my guinea pigs. And one of the things that we've noticed is if any one of us doesn't drink water for a while, we wilt. And when we wilt, our emotions get rough. And so since we're used to being hydrated and vibrant and happy most of the time, it's really obvious if a member of the family is wilted. So everybody says, hey, why don't you drink some water? You're being kind of tough on us. And so take that one process of my feeling state and connect it to water and realize that when I'm full up with water, I have a shot at feeling well. And when I'm empty, I don't. So how important is it? It's important in how you think, how you digest, how you respirate. It's important for everything in your life. And then I think there was one more part of your question, but I didn't retain it.
Yeah, it was just, is the quality of water more that it's hydrating us at a cellular level, or are there other properties of water that are also making it healthy?
Well, so here's the shocker. I didn't know when I started this journey 5 or 6 years ago that there was an energy of water, and I didn't know that there was a spirituality of water. And now I am so transformed, I'm really not recognizable as the same being that I was 6 years ago. And the just stunning surprise for me is how this water journey has helped me find my pineal gland, open my third eye. And now that that's been going on for a couple of years, this year I'm starting to have out-of-body experiences. I had an experience on the phone yesterday where a prospect called and I was talking to her and she had laryngitis. And I got a portion of it. And so I had phlegm and my voice got quiet.
Wow.
And so I'm like learning all these things that I had no idea about. And, that can sound a little scary and definitely weird. But what I want to give us hope about, keep people interested in this conversation to find out, in depth what I'm really talking about here is the way we're understanding the world isn't working. It's not working. People are sick everywhere. There's pain and suffering everywhere. And so something big has got to change. Well, my hypothesis is let's change our relationship with water, the very essence of what we're made of, and use that as a playground to figure out who we really are and what's possible in life.
So let's talk of some of the water options that I get questions about all the time. So let's start with things like reverse osmosis, distilled water, alkaline water. So when we look at reverse osmosis and distilled water, I personally am not a huge fan of either one of them, especially because the minerals are largely removed. And so the water is what I kind of think of as dead water. And so I'm interested in your thoughts on reverse osmosis and distilled water. Would you ever use them? Is there a case where there is an argument to use distilled water or reverse osmosis? And then beyond that, would you use them long term?
I wouldn't use them long term. I would use them for cleansing. And why I wouldn't use them on a regular basis. Again, a lot of the science these days points to Dr. Pollack. It's been really helpful. And he's helped me to understand that a negative charge in my body is really useful. And a positive charge is what comes out of my elimination system. He actually goes through this anecdote where he describes a friend of his measuring the electrical charge of his poo and finding out that it was a positive charge. Like, that's what the body is putting out. And what we want to put in is the negative charge. So RO and distilled are I don't know if they have a positive charge, but I know they don't have a negative charge. There's no electrical support for your being in those waters. And yeah, one of the ways I can, a quick story to exemplify this for you is when I worked as a financial advisor, I had this fountain. And I kept it in the office, and the office had RO that I brought into it. And the fountain never got dirty. I only gave it RO water, and it never got dirty. And then when I came home and had a home office, I started giving it living water. And all this crud started growing on it, all this, stuff. So I have to take it outside once a year and like chisel it off. And my thought was, if RO doesn't let anything grow and living water does, what do I want in my body? I want biodiversity. I want things growing. I don't want a sterile environment.
So let's talk about the pH conversation. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. So people seem to get excited about alkaline water. I had my phase with alkaline water as well. So what are the pros and cons of alkaline water? What is an optimal target pH for water? And do the benefits of alkaline water lose themselves over time?
Okay, so the optimal pH is 7. And you can be a little bit naturally alkaline. You get a good aquifer that's got a lot of minerals, and you can be up toward 8. And the alkaline water industry is typically using electrocution with these big plates to separate water into 2 streams and to give part of it a pH of 9.5 or higher. And one of the ways that I know now, I had my alkaline phase too, it was about 2 years. And one of the ways that I know now that it doesn't work is as soon as you split those 2 streams and you leave them alone, nature is immediately working to reverse the properties and bring it back to where it was. So I follow nature as a guide. Like, nature is really important to me. And the pH and oxidation reduction potential that get created by an electrolyzing alkaline water machine, those degrade instantly, immediately. They begin their degradation process after the water is made. So I do think alkaline water has a kernel of validity that we should speak about so that people know, which is it's a medical grade out of balance water. So what that means is I like to think of an acid alkaline seesaw. So I got acid and alkaline and I'm way out of balance. And then I put alkalinity on one side of the seesaw, I can come up and be neutral. I think for that, it's good. And so if you go on the internet and you do your research, you'll find some people out there screaming. They'll be like, over here, I saved myself. I saved my life. I got rid of cancer because of alkaline water. You got to have this. You got to have this. And their story, they're not lying. They're authentic. Those type of stories are legit. But it doesn't mean it's a good long-term water for the rest of us.
Yeah, and one of the challenges with alkaline water as well is I think people are often drinking alkaline water at the time that they're eating, and ideally you want the pH in the stomach to stay really low to digest your food, right? So I often wonder if drinking alkaline water when you're eating is potentially then having some negative impact on the digestive process. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you notice, I'm drinking water while we're talking, right? Because talking is an antihistamine. It's a dehydrating activity. And so because I'm used to being hydrated, if I don't keep up with my water while we're talking, then I'm going to dehydrate. I'm going to wilt. We don't want a wilted Patrick to interview. It wouldn't be any fun. And so exactly when I don't want the water is when I'm digesting, because the stomach acid is really acidic. It's like 2.5. And that's when you want that acid to go to your food and rip it all up. So I find that most health professionals that I've talked to align with the principle of stop drinking a half hour before your meal and don't drink with it, and start drinking a half hour after your meal. And I find that most people, how many people have bad guts these days? Most people do most of their drinking with their meal.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So it's not just the alkaline water around the time you're eating, but really any water is going to be a higher pH than the stomach acid is. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's definitely worth noting. And it is one of the things that I am often not good at myself. I probably need to be a little better with not drinking so much around meals. So how important is mineralizing water, and why are minerals in the water so important? And then how do we get minerals into the water?
Okay, that's a great question. I had an interesting clarifying event on this recently, which is that I feel strongly about not removing minerals from water. For people who don't know about this, your water goes through the hydrological cycle, and when it goes through rivers and streams, it picks up some of the rocks and the sediment and stuff that it goes over, and it naturally gets a whole lot of what are called trace minerals. So there's all these little micronutrients that we need. So the first thing is, if you're adding minerals to your water, don't just add calcium and magnesium and think that you've done it. You want a number, you probably know better than I do. I think they're around 90 trace minerals. Do you know the exact number?
I don't. I was going to say some of the products I've seen, I know they've got about 75 or something in some of them.
Yeah, that's a good number. So, at least, I don't know, more than 50, but the closer you get to 90, the more likely you're getting the biodiversity of mineral that you need. And so what I feel is that if I'm getting water that's gone through the hydrological cycle, then nature has picked up the minerals. I sell a mineral enhancement cartridge, but I don't feel called to say you have to add more minerals that way. I kind of feel like nature's got it maybe better figured out. But what I do feel really strongly about is don't remove them. That's RO and distilled. Don't do that. And then to answer the part about what's the best way to get minerals in your water, it's any way that you'll do it. So if the only way you'll do it is to put a cartridge on, and you have the budget, they're not that expensive, and you can put a cartridge on with some trace minerals, I think you're heading in the right direction. But if you can be mindful and use a dropper, I know for one of my favorite activities is going out and harvesting firewood for my wood stove. And I usually will go, take my chainsaw with an empty pickup truck and come home with a fully cut up load. And that is an exhausting experience. And so by the time I'm done with that, usually the first thing I do is go in the kitchen, get a glass of water, fill it with a full day's worth of minerals and chug it. Like the natural form of Gatorade, like actually getting the electricity, the electrolytes that my body needs to rejuvenate from that type of activity.
So is there a specific liquid mineral product that you personally like?
Yeah, I like Omica, OMICA. They're a really great brand, and
cool.
People can look them up all over the place.
So how important is removing things from water like fluoride, like chlorine, and other toxins? And does that then positively influence our ability to later structure the water? Or is the potential for fluoride and chlorine and things like that not really a prerequisite to remove those in order to then have structured water, which we'll talk about more in a bit?
So it doesn't matter when we're structuring whether there's fluoride or chlorine in it. It can be in there or not in it. Removing or reducing those from water, that's a chemistry-based scientific experience, and when we're structuring, it's a physics-based experience, and the physics doesn't get impacted poorly if there's more toxins in it. Now,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so you ask, how important is it to remove them? Well, this is kind of an interesting thing, because downstairs I have boxes of traditional chemistry filters, and I had a sense you would ask me this question today. And so I did what I always do, which is I got my pendulum out earlier today, and I tested yet again. Is my body fully 100% safe leaving toxins in the water and transforming them with physics? And the answer is 100% yes. And so I was really thinking about that today. I take these interviews seriously, and I want to show up having examined my material today, And one of my thoughts about that's more recent is I'm starting to understand vibrational living. Like, people say everything's a frequency and everything's a vibration, but the majority of us say that without really having a lot of understandings of behaviors that align with it. I'm starting to really align with it. I've been saying it for long enough now that the doors are opening for me. It's making sense. And so what I got today is a greater depth of understanding about why I'm safe. And the answer is because toxins are a low vibration. They're a low vibration. And I have raised my vibration. And so we're not in the same space anymore. And so it's kind of weird, but like, let's say this is the vibration of fluoride and chlorine, and this is where I started my water journey. I've been wrestling with this, and as I've wrestled with it and expanded my relationship with water, I feel like this is what's happened. I've gone from below it to above it. So initially, the reason I have filters is I used to sell filters, and I was scared of them too. But now I just look and say, wait a minute, that's just a fear-based conversation, like any fear-based conversation. And I'm a being that's capable in a vibrational universe of crossing over that threshold. Now, that's all a little bit woo-woo, and so I need some like experiences to back that up. And I want to share two briefly. One is the number one reason I wouldn't want to drink fluoridated water is because the fluoride calcifies our pineal gland, covers it up. Well, I've been drinking fluoridated water while I uncovered my pineal gland. And I know I've done it. There's like zero question. Now, when I was the only one of my customers, like I was the one who had had that experience, I didn't talk about it much. But then I started to hear other people talking about it. One customer in particular visited a naturopath. She drank fluoridated water in Southern California at the naturopath's office through one of these simple structured water devices. And she called me so excited. And she said, since I was a little girl, if I drank water with fluoride in it, I threw up. And I just drank water with fluoride in it through your device, and I didn't throw up. I got to get one of your devices. And so I feel like water's on my team, and the universe is on my team, and people are on my team, and I'm on their team. And so when I need to know something like this is true, I get sent an experience like that where I can learn it, where I can see it. So I'm really confident for me, but then the other side of this is now somebody's listening and they're saying, well, what about me? Am I safe? And so what I would say is, first off, there's no judgment coming from over here. I just want to educate and inform and help you hear your truth. And by standing in mine and shining my light, do my best to help you see through bull and get to what is true. So I would say about a quarter or a third of our marketplace that chooses physics-based structured water devices also choose a filter to remove things from the water. And so about 2/3 don't. And I think probably some of those are influenced by my stand around it. Now, what's cool is once you start to take it on and you experiment with it yourself, and maybe you develop a relationship with a piece of crystal on a string, you start to know for yourself. And that's my greatest goal in my vocation. If I can say something that has another person hear what's true for them and go further into knowing themselves and listening to their own inner guidance instead of anybody that's perceived as an expert or a guru, then I've done exactly what makes me happiest.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is there a single device that addresses the chemistry side of it, the physics side of it, the mineral side of it, or is that really just not even a relevant question given what you just discussed with us? If somebody wants to do the filtration before the structuring, are those two separate things, or is there one unit or tool that allows us to do that?
I think the best way to answer that is to think about uniting the answer in a formula. So the formula that we could give people is when you go to evaluate your water considerations, educate yourself and make a choice about chemistry. Educate yourself and make a choice about physics. And the third one is enhancements, meaning do I add minerals, remove minerals, something like that. So if you choose whether to have a filter or not, you choose whether to have a structuring device, and you choose whether to add minerals, then I think you're in the right camp. Now, I have assembled that type of package in the past, and what I've discovered while engaging with the marketplace on it is I wanted to put a cute little box around it and be like, this is the one thing for everybody. And the reality is that water is a local issue. And then on top of it being a local issue, it's a personal issue, because there are taste considerations and there are fear considerations. So and there's also a financial issue. So if somebody has the budget that spending an extra $1,000 on this month's credit card bill means nothing to them, and they have a little bit of fear about toxins in water, then they'll have the chemistry filter, they'll have the physics for energizing, and they'll have the minerals. But a lot of people are getting by month to month, and because of that, it's kind of funny. Because of that, they might be more inclined to buy something like this that costs $300 and lasts for a lifetime and give it a try, because they might actually experience in whatever version of this type of thing they do, hey, wait a minute, I like the taste of this. I feel energized. My skin feels good. I think I'm hydrated. I'm going to stick with this. Then there's no more replacement parts and there's no more maintenance. So by a budgetary concern, they end up with something that serves them at I think, a higher vibrational level.
So let's talk then about structured water. I'm sure that many people listening aren't even familiar with that term. So what is structured water? And then what are some of the benefits from a health perspective that people have observed when using structured water?
Nice. So all water is structured. It's just, is the water structured chaotic or is it harmonious? So you and I are actually structuring water every time we iterate a sentence. Our DNA is actually being shaped by our word choices. And if you notice my word choices, they have a flowingness to them. They have some harmony, some cohesion. They're soft. I don't use a lot of jagged, sharp words because I recognize that they carry energy. So I've studied about sound. I've studied about words. I've studied about water. And I see how it all comes together. And so I lost track of the question for a second.
So it was, what is structured water? And then what are the health benefits that people report when they start using structured water?
Great, thanks. So I started at like a really basic level that we're structuring when we don't even know it. But what people mean on the internet when they say structured water, if you go Google structured water and you end up on a site like mine or anybody else's, you're going to have somebody that's selling a device that's saying, I have a technique with magnets, with beads, with crystals, with sacred geometry, with vortexing, with electricity, with spinning. Everybody's got their own thing that they're saying. And they're all, I have an analogy for this that I think is really helpful. So when we use ordinary tap, bottled, or filtered water, treated only with chemistry, no physics, it's like having self-propelled transportation. That means like you're on a skateboard and you're like pushing yourself along, or you're on a bike and you're riding along. And what it means to me is you put water in your body and your body has to work to convert it to make it the useful fuel that the body wants. There's a lot of energy going into that. When you move into the realm of physics, even if it's not one of the technologies that I support or recommend, but even if you move into it, it's like moving into a modern automobile. It's like giving your body the energy that it needs. So I don't choose to structure water with magnets because to me, magnets are polarity, and I don't want polarity defining my life. I want oneness defining my life. So I have an elimination criteria. If something's got magnets, that's not a technology that I would choose. If something has infinite energies, it is. So water's always structured, and the question is, what is it structured with? And I'm sure we'll have a follow-up question about that. And in terms of health benefits, it's everything. I mean, I shared with you the emotions earlier, but people will report that they've healed diseases. People will report skin conditions that have gone away, that their hair feels thick, some will say something akin to, in the first sip, I knew I had found God. Like that deep. One of my first customers in my online store was Gisele Bündchen, the Victoria's Secret supermodel. And I had no idea how she found out about it till like a month later. And one of my affiliates is a massage therapist, and he was giving her a massage, and I heard later she took one sip of the water, and immediately had her assistant go online and order 2 devices. No hesitation. So that tells me she's very sensitive to energy. And she can buy whatever she wants when she wants it.
Yeah. Nice.
So we just don't know, Scott, like what benefits people are going to get. But what I do know is that I spent a lot of years sick. And I spent a lot of years trying to figure out, like, what am I? Not by somebody else's definition, but by my own experience of what I am. And what I'm finding is that I am a being that runs really well on highly energized water. That fuel source makes up for a lot of other things for me.
So you mentioned earlier that as we age, our water declines. You also said that water is always structured. It just may not be cohesively structured. It may be structured in a way that we don't want it to be. So is it possible that then by using structured water that over time we're also helping to support healthy aging?
I think so. I mean, okay. I'm kind of running with the hypothesis that aging is actually dehydrating. And so that's why I like to use the plum and prune analogy. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't take too much time in a nursing home to look around and see that we end up like prunes if we live long enough. Like that's how it goes. Right. And so if that's the way that it goes, my question is, how does hydration work? And how can I make it as strong in this body as it can? So, how hydration works is there's 2 types of hydration. There's intracellular and extracellular. And so the intracellular is when we actually get the water inside the cells. And the extracellular, like if I go make some green tea right now and drink it, within a very short number of minutes of finishing 1 cup of tea, I'll have to pee. Because that's extracellular hydration and it will just flow through me. Right? It won't stick. But if I drink structured water, I could drink bottles of it and not have to pee because it's going into my cells.
Wow, that's cool. That's a big difference for sure. So talk to us a little bit about Dr. Emoto and how his work fits into the whole concept of structured water.
Well, Dr. Emoto is a Japanese naturopath who passed away about 2 years ago. And he gave the world an enormous gift, which is he took water and he froze it very quickly and he took photographs of it. And what he showed us was that if the water was influenced by harmonious words or music, or if it came from a spring, that the crystals would be elegant and beautiful. We would want to be around them. We'd be called to them. And if the words that were spoken were hate or the music was heavy metal, then the crystals would look fractured and decrepit. They'd look like death. And so he gave us that, and he gave us that to the tune of a New York Times best-selling book, The Hidden Messages in Water, that opened the eyes of millions of people and spurred an industry of investigating water crystals. And so what we have as a gift from Dr. Emoto is an awareness that people like me can come and stand upon and say, okay, thank you, Dr. Emoto, for opening my eyes. Now I'm all about getting action in my life that makes a difference, that illuminates my experience of living, and sharing that. And so what's happening is that there's a deeper knowledge of the consciousness of water and of water being alive. And that has opened doorways that we never would have had without him. An interesting thing about him is that his lab, the Hato Lab, actually co-developed 3 of the products that are in our VitaJoule Gem Water line. And they also tested our Jivara line, our gold devices. They did actual testing on these devices. And so a lot of water businesses apply the concept of Dr. Emoto to their web pages, but we actually have products that were both co-developed and tested by his lab.
Nice. And somewhat selfishly, I'm going to ask you later for where someone should start in trying out your products because I want to get some and try some myself. So you mentioned that structured water does exist in nature. So when we're no longer connected to nature, then we have to find other ways to incorporate structured water into our lives, meaning is part of the problem here that we've become more and more disconnected from nature in many ways. And just the modernization of our life is part of why we now have this issue where we're not getting structured water.
Yeah, I think so. And, as we're talking right now, I have 5 structured water devices on my desk, right? So I'm literally surrounded.
Nice.
Right? So there's nobody like more into it or checking it out more than me. But let me tell you a story. I went to Zion National Park. I went on a hike called the Narrows. And I went up waterfall after waterfall. They were like 10 feet, and you could find a way through the edges to get yourself up. And when we were coming back down, we were on the last one, and I guess it was a little bit cocky, and I jumped off of it. And I landed with my heel up toward my butt, and my shin landed on a submerged rock. We were 2 hours plus from help, and there was nobody coming. And I just stood there with my legs still under the water, and my son was right in front of me. He's like, "Dad, you okay?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Well, we got to take a look at your leg." I was like, "I don't want to." So we pulled my leg out of the water, and I had a horseshoe-shaped bruise about just like that, about that size. And it was about as swollen as a thumb on top of my shin, the whole horseshoe, and then there was a cut down the middle. And it was instant, and it was purple, blue and purple. He's like, "Dad, what are we going to do?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to start walking." And the Narrows is vortexing water in nature. That's what is there. And so when you go to walk through it, it ranges between a few dry spots to ankle deep to hip deep. And so I'm going to walk in the place that are deeper, and I'm going to keep my leg underwater for the next couple of hours, and we're going to get out of here. And if you see I'm in a rough spot and I need some balance, come give me a hand. He's like, "Okay." So we started walking out, and when we got to the end, and it was not easy, and we got to the end of the 2 hours, the swelling was gone, the discoloration was gone, there was a slight cut, and by the next day, that cut was gone, and I went hiking again.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, like I get it. Like I'm a structured water guy, and this was structured water, and it was vortexing, and I'm being given an experience. What's the lesson? I don't get it. Like if you knew a miracle was about to happen, you'd take a picture, right? But I didn't. So there's no photographic proof. Like, what's the point here, water? Show me. And what I got was that because I was in nature, and because I went so inward on that walk, I mean, I would just describe it as a state of prayer and begging for mercy. Like there was nothing else to do. There were no outs. Because of that, I evoked, or water gave me, or it happened, that a miracle happened. And so when I got back here, I was like, okay, so still, what was the point of that? And the point was that all these devices on my desk, what they're doing is they're doing their utmost to give me that experience, but the true depth of the experience is in Mother Nature, in moving water. And so when you speak about our modernization, it makes me want to throw up. Like, I have 4 kids, and I have a child support payment, and I have 8 little eyes that look up to me, although some of them are starting to look down to me. They're kind of big now, that look to me to provide financial support and to be a provider in our family. And what I most want to do is like get us living in nature in that energy that I experience in Zion National Park, so we could find out what kind of beings we really are. And I'm caught in this rat race of needing to participate to, have a family that that looks a certain way. But I think that partnership with that energy field, that's the greatest experience in life. And that's what I want to be closest to.
So we know that many spring waters are structured water, I believe. And so when you have the big, 5-gallon containers of spring water that are delivered to your home or to your office, are those still structured water at that point in time? And do they maintain their structure then indefinitely?
It's a good question. I don't fully know the answer, but I can offer some insights. So the first insight is that water's going to be appealing because the sensitivity that people bring to water is, how does it taste? So the spring water is going to taste good. It doesn't have chlorine or fluoride in it. It didn't get the man-made poisons put into it. So it's going to be appealing by the sense that most people engage with water with. But what I'd like to do is bring awareness to a new way for us to engage with water, which is, how does the water feel? Right? How do I feel around that water? One of the things I love most about our business is that people say, I just like it. And that's everything. Like, if you just like water, most people, if they go to a restaurant and they order dinner and, their friends get wine, beer, lemonade, just water, there's always like that disclaimer, like it's just water, as though I need to apologize to the server. You're not going to get a tip because I'm getting just water. So we take it for granted. And, what I'd like to bring is this awareness that we notice, how does water feel? And I can tell you that the feel of that spring water is it's a nice idea for me. Like, my mind likes that it came from a spring, but then I also know it came with profiteering. It came through processing. It came in a plastic bottle. It came in a truck spewing carbon. It came with an exchange of money for something that I don't think we need to exchange money for. So it carries all of that in its memory. So even if I had that spring water delivered here, I would want to put it through a structured water device to give it the feel of infinite energies that we can give it with physics.
So many people with chronic health challenges have some aspect of their condition that is related to environmental toxicity. We're in an environment where we've got metals and pesticides and chemicals and all kinds of things. And so how does structured water help support the body's ability to more efficiently detoxify?
Well, did you ever hear the work of Dr. Alexis Carrel?
No.
No, he was a Rockefeller Institute scientist, and he had a hypothesis that it was waste around the cells, not time, that caused aging. And so what he did was he harvested some chicken heart cells, and he put them in a petri dish, and he changed the liquid around them every day, gave them a bath daily. And they outlived their longevity by 400%, their expected longevity. And so what that hypothesis suggests is it's the removal of waste that matters most. I had this really weird, well, I don't know if it's weird. It took me a long time to figure it out. I transitioned from alkaline water with a 9.5 pH to structured water with a 7 pH, and my acidity went down. Why? And the theory that finally came into focus was the toxins are very acidic in the body. And so what happened was, because of the better flow of the hydration of structured water, they removed more of the toxicity from my body. And thereby, it wasn't a alkalizing pH that made me less acidic. It was a flushing body that made me less acidic.
People often talk about feeling better when they're around negative ions, when they're at the beach, that seems to really make them feel better. Is there a connection between negative ions and structured water?
Absolutely. When you hear me say that there's more energy in structured water, what I'm saying is there's more negative ions. So that's exactly what we're doing. The science that we use comes from a Russian scientist, Konstantin Korokov, and he developed a machine called GDV, or gas discharge visualization, to measure the energy, meaning the negative ions, of water and people. And so what they've tested is we take people who have not consumed structured water, or at least structured with physics water, because we now all know together that all water is structured, and we give them this type of water, and we measure their energy fields before and after, and everybody shows a minimum increase of 10% in their energy field. And so what we're saying is put more negative charge in the human body, and you will find a more vital expression of that body.
And does that energy then translate into what people would perceive as energy? Meaning, if someone has a condition where fatigue is a significant symptom, if they have chronic fatigue syndrome or Lyme disease or who knows what else, where fatigue is one of the top things, does that energy then translate into feeling like they have more energy or less fatigue?
So we have to kind of leave this up to individual experiences. And what I would tell you from somebody who got himself sick and got himself well is that I didn't get myself sick. Irritable bowel syndrome's similar to a chronic fatigue. I mean, it takes a while to get yourself into that situation. And it takes a while to get yourself out. And so what I would say I can feel most confident about is if we help a person or change a person's fluids to being the highest vibration structured water, we've now like realigned the operating system. Like, you know, when I used to use a PC, my computer would crash often and would get bugs and stuff. And I shifted to a Mac. And, you know, Macs don't crash. They just don't. So switching to a Mac doesn't immediately make my life better. But after a couple of years of using a Mac, and I'm really skillful with a Mac now, I have a really nice flow, I would say my experience around technology is a really harmonious one. And I don't get in any more of those Control-Alt-Delete fights with my PC. So, you know, it's a little bit like that. And so would a person who's in the depth of chronic fatigue, they're ill. They've taken years to build up waste in their body and to get out of alignment emotionally, possibly. You know, there can be different factors for everyone, but they've got a lot going on that's got them set in this energy field of fatigue. So now we bring in the operating system. It begins the flushing process. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not instant, oh my gosh, I have so much energy. It's not that kind of energy. It's like the kind of energy that's, once you get everything cleared out, it's like high and sustainable, but it takes a while to get there.
So you mentioned the gas discharge visualization as one way to see that there was benefit in structured water. Have there been people that have looked at dark field microscopy before and after structured water, and what kinds of changes are observed with that method?
Yeah, sure. There's a documentary called Water, the Great Mystery, where they profiled the changes from white blood cell analysis or dark field microscopy. I actually had a personal experience with it, where I went to a conference with a nutritionist, and it was a repetitive conference. So we met there and said, hey, next time we come, let's do an experiment together. You bring your microscope, I'll get the structured water wired into the infrastructure of the hotel. So when the people come and arrive, we'll meet them at the door and ask them if they want to participate in our test. If they say yes, we'll take them upstairs and show them their blood under your microscope. And then we'll ask them to just participate in the experience of the event without doing anything different. Just do what you do. But they'll be drinking structured water, which they're not used to. And then after they've had the structured water for 48 hours, we'll bring them back up and we'll show them their blood again. And she was stunned. She said, I've been looking at people's blood for 11 years, and after looking at their blood, I prescribe nutritional therapies. And the best therapy I've ever given, if we look at that over 30 days and the impact of that on a person's body, everybody we tested was better than that in 48 hours with structured water. So what we see is the cells, which are not flowing, get flowing when they have high quality structured water.
Is it common when people start incorporating structured water into their life? Is it common for them to have some detox reactions? Do people have some symptoms as a result of starting that cleansing process?
That's a good question. I would estimate 3 to 5%. Like, it does happen. I had a woman. I was at that a version of that convention I was just describing last week, and it's now evolved into a new version. But anyway, I think this woman purchased her VitaJoule bottle from me on Thursday, and then on Friday she came back and said, "My hydration's changing." She's like, "I gotta pee a lot now. Why am I peeing so much?" And I said, "Well, I told you earlier about the extracellular hydration leading to a lot of peeing. Well, actually, there's another factor that can lead to a lot of peeing, which is people's bodies hold water, because water is the most important thing that it's got in the body. It's like, when am I going to get some more?" And so when you actually start, as she did, flooding her body with good water, the body says, "Oh my God, I'm getting fed." And so it releases. And so you when you're on-ramping, like starting that process, you like have a whole bunch of peas to get out that stuff that your body was holding on to. So the way I like to think about it is, if you've been running your operating system with some Starbucks and some juice and whatever your beverages are that are anything other than high vibration water, and then you bring this in, it's change. And so pay attention. Like, one guy, he said, I immediately, like that night, went from 7 hours of sleep to 5 hours of sleep. And I've stayed that way permanently. This was like a year later that I was talking to him. He just immediately needed 2 hours less a night of sleep. Now, for me, that sounds impossible, but there he is telling me his story. So I just tell the stories that others tell and let people be their own judge. We're going to have some change, but I don't know what it's going to be.
We talked about GDV. We talked about microscopy. You talked about extracellular and intracellular water, with the goal being to get more water intracellular or inside the cells. If we look at bioimpedance analysis, or BIA, is that something that can also be used to show the benefits of structured water?
So I actually am not that familiar with that technology, but I can provide something that's really simple for people to measure for themselves, because I'm all about the empowerment of the individual and that they have their own answers. So here's a couple of secrets. Feel the inside of your mouth. Notice whether it feels wet or dry, and pay attention. So for me, what I noticed as I was learning all this is, I'm still learning all this, so at the beginning of my journey anyway, is that if I drank tea, my cheek would dry out. I'm like, okay, that's a dehydrating experience for me. And then if I drink certain types of water, my skin would feel dry. Okay, that's a dehydrating experience for me. I've done a really good job of healing my emotions. And so I'm like not a crabby guy anymore. And I don't really bump into a lot of anger anymore. I'm kind of steady and happy like every day. So I notice if my emotions go down, I'm dehydrated. So what I think we need to do is get a new dashboard. And so, how am I sleeping? How vital do I feel? Do I feel energized or not? How are my emotions? How's the inside of my cheeks? How do my hands feel? Is my urine clear? Am I peeing at least 4 or 5 times a day? If those things are all fairly, good readouts, you're hydrated. And if they're not, just go to work on drinking more water. And if you really want to be a glutton for learning, just try a behavior that's supported for 3 days. And a lot of people, the first time they try something for 3 days, they might say they don't notice a difference. Okay, stop doing it. Stop doing it for 3 days. And then repeat. Do 3 days on, 3 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off. And by a couple of repetitions, I found that my body will show me exactly what it wants. Like, no, don't go back. That's how I switched from alkaline to structured water. I did not hear about structured water and go, oh yeah, I'm dumped in my alkaline machine. This is it, I was like, no way. I got this $4,000 investment in an alkaline water machine. I'm sticking with it. It's good for me. My friend Kim was going to die. She didn't die. I know this works. I'm sticking with it. But then I got a structured water device for my shower. I started putting it on my skin. I was like, oh, skin feels pretty good. And then one day I'm showering and I hear, drink it. And I'm like, okay. So I got a gallon of water and I filled it up in the shower and I drank it. And I was like, I like that. And I went from that first day for like 4 months without drinking the alkaline water. And then I had a bout of acidity. And so for like 3 days, I drank the alkaline water. And then I switched back to the structured and I never went back. Unplugged that machine and put it down in the basement.
We talked a little bit about Gerald Pollack's work with easy water and the exclusion zone water. So how is easy water different from or similar to structured water?
It's the same thing.
It is the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you bring that up. So one more distinction from Gerald Pollack about easy water that he taught me, which is that water is like a battery and you can add energy to it. And not many people know that. So I'm adding energy to water with physics. And then I'm releasing that water into me to increase my energy. And so I think it's really important that we understand that understanding of Dr. Pollack's water. And the second distinction I was going to give you is gone. But that's okay.
And I think one of the things that I've heard in his work is that people can also use infrared sauna, where you were talking about adding energy, right? That if you're doing infrared sauna, that then with the water that's already in us is creating some of this exclusion zone water. And my understanding is that also then is helpful from a perspective of how the body's ability to detoxify and get rid of toxins.
For sure.
Yeah,
I can tell because I crave my sauna. As soon as the weather's cold around here, I go in for about an hour, about 4 times a week. And I know that's pretty long for most people, but I'm really clear that I'm being nourished when I'm in there. So adding that type of light, infrared light, is a hydrating experience and it's a detoxifying experience.
Beautiful.
So I love doing that.
So let's talk a little bit now about the exciting part for me is learning a little bit about some of the tools that you offer. So I know that you have the VitaJoule. I know you also have the natural action water system. So maybe let's start with the VitaJoule. I actually have a local chiropractic person that I see here who has one of these things and had shown it to me in their office. And so when I went to the website to look, the first thing was I was just a bit overwhelmed by the number of choices of VitaJoule bottles. And so maybe you can help us understand, what is the VitaJoule doing? And then for someone who's just starting out, maybe there's someone that has Lyme disease or mold illness or some similar condition, wants to support detoxification, which one of them would be a good place to start?
Okay, great. So I've been drinking out of a VitaJoule bottle while we're talking. And you can see it's a glass cylinder with 16.9 ounces of water. Here's a second one that's full. You can see this has a different gem pod in the bottom. That's what we call this thing down here. This one's rose quartz. This one is sodalite and aquamarine and ocean chalcedony and clear quartz. And so what we're doing is people have been using crystals for thousands of years for their healing properties. And water is a mechanism for transferring energies. So we're taking the energy of the stones and we're putting it into our water. And talk about being overwhelmed. Like, I've been an expert in these devices, and then, I got these devices for 5 years, and then along come 19 different styles of water bottles. And I didn't know very much about crystals. And so the first thing that I've learned is if we can soften our mind for a minute and allow our intuition just to guide us to the one that we're most drawn to, that's the one. And a lot of us have been trained away from counting on ourselves. So a couple of brief descriptions. The wellness bottle is you can't go wrong with this one bottle, because it's amethyst, which people attribute calming and expanding of intuition. Who doesn't want that? Like that's all good. And then rose quartz, which is opening the heart chakra. So those two, pink and purple, blended together, and it's the least expensive bottle. So until I started carrying these this year, this device at $317 was the least expensive device to get into structured water. Now people can get a bottle for $78, which is, accessible to most everybody. So I really like that. In terms of the 19, there are a couple that are more popular than others. The Love bottle that I was holding up with the rose quartz in it, the pink one, a lot of people like heart chakra energy. Like you can't really go wrong with that. I have a piece of rose quartz on my desk, and did even before I understood crystals and water. Like it's just a universally appealing stone. So that's a very popular one. The infinity one actually comes with this little decal on the bottle, and that decal is called the Infinity Wave, and there's a story that goes with it. We have that information up on our website. The short answer is, if you're looking for more love, compassion, and expansion of your spirituality, I would choose infinity. And then for somebody who's dealing my body is not where I want it to be, then I would encourage them to look at the Vitality bottle. It's emerald green, and it's been described to me by some of my affiliates. I work with a lot of energy workers and chiropractors and people like that, and so I'm constantly getting taught by those people. And one of them said, well, that Vitality bottle, it carries the green ray, and the green ray stimulates the body's own healing mechanisms, no matter what a person is dealing with. So I would say, if you're dealing with that physical thing, I'd go look at Vitality. But while you're looking at it, you're saying, I wish he had said the wellness bottle for me. Get the wellness bottle, okay. Right?
So once you put the water in those, is it immediately structured then, or is there a period of time that it needs to sit there, or what's the process?
The recommendation is 10 minutes. But, when I do, if you look at what I've just done, so I'm almost through one bottle, and the next one's already full. So when I finish this one, I'll fill it. I won't leave until both are empty to go fill. So I'm constantly filling my bottle before I need it. And if you apply that principle, you fill it before bed, you drink it when you get up. Now you just finished the bottle, you fill it again, you're not going to want water for 10 more minutes. And you keep that up throughout the day.
So as we move into the natural action water products, how would you say the VitaJewel and the natural action water products compare in terms of the resulting structure of the water? Okay,
so there's one deal breaker for me on measuring devices. If a device doesn't have sacred geometry, then I'm out. So these devices have sacred geometry, and crystals have sacred geometry. Now, if you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you there were two deal breakers: sacred geometry and vortexing, both of which are in this device. But then when I discovered the bottles and I got them around a bunch of people who do kinesiology and muscle testing and work with health, and they showed me that they actually love the bottles, I began to realize that there's an interaction between crystals and water that's very sophisticated and that I don't even begin to understand yet. So the simplicity of a crystal is enough. But in this device, what creates the effect is sacred geometry and vortexing. So what that means is the water goes in here like a funnel and it comes out here. And in between, people look inside here, and let's see if we can get enough light. I think I'm backlit, and it's not going to work. It looks like a golf ball, but it's not a golf ball. it's a very specifically engineered sphere that has hexagons all over it. And when you lay the spheres with hexagons into one another, it creates the resonance of the icosahedron and the dodecahedron, which Plato called the highest expression of consciousness and the highest expression of water. So it's a very particular shape. And then the water, every time a drop goes through a natural action device, it encounters a sphere. It either has to go one side of the sphere or the other. And so in so doing, water is spinning in both directions at the same time. It's kind of hard to do with one's hands, but it's coming out spinning in itself. And the spin of a vortex is infinitely fast. And so what I've come to understand on this 6-year odyssey I've been on is that this really simple, convenient, durable device is bringing infinite energy into someone's water and thereby into them.
And how does that actually work? Does it have to be connected to anything, or do you just hold it over a glass and pour water through it? What's?
Yeah. So you can go up to a faucet and hold that end up.
Okay.
Pour the faucet water through there, and it will come out there.
Okay.
And it comes out very fast. I would say you can turn a kitchen faucet on 50 to 60% force and have the water come out. Whereas with the Jivara product, which this one, instead of having a built-in funnel, has an add-on funnel. This one I would say is like 25% of a faucet. So this one's feels more like a piece of art, where this feels more like something really durable and convenient.
And the nice thing is they're obviously not something that have to be installed into the plumbing like other types of filters, and don't have risks of leaking and flooding and other things. So that's quite nice that they're pretty easy for people to start incorporating.
Unless you get up to something like this. This is the Maximus, and this goes on your pipe. And so the light's not very good but you can see the sacred spiral there.
Yeah.
And it's in a pyramid shape. And then there's, all these different holes inside, and there's 10 different gemstones, and then vials with highly charged water in here. And so you have a pipe, and you just cut out a section, and you run the water right through it.
So that's like a whole house type structuring system.
Yeah, we have them for the house, for the shower, for the sink. And
cool.
We run a super supportive company. So if people contact us, we'll just listen to what's up in their lives and help match them up with the products that meet their needs.
Awesome. So the last question that I have is the same that I ask every guest, but for you, I'm going to put a caveat and say, besides structured water, what are some of the key things that you do on a daily basis in support of your own health?
Oof, wow. So many things. My health is so important to me, and having been sick, I know the value of it. So what I'm experimenting with right now is I've always overeaten. I just do. And lately, and I've found that I crash and burn between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. So my new thing is, one, I'm eating fruits and vegetables. And so I have cut out wheat, dairy, meat, all that stuff. Fruits and vegetables, some nuts. And I'm eating one big meal in the late afternoon. And I allow myself to eat as absolutely much as I want to. Like, you want to pig out at 4 o'clock, dude. And then if I'm hungry and I really want something at 8, 9, or 10, I'm only allowed fruit. And so I'm aligning with what I perceive to be what we were designed to eat. I do spiritual practices every day. I go in the sauna all winter long. I split my wood for my wood stove all year long to keep my body moving. I go to yoga. I've really amped up my minerals lately. I feel like in this evolutionary process, I'm taking 8 times as many minerals right now. It just feels like overloading them. I take some DHA in a plant-based form. Taking bee pollen. just experiment with superfoods and super supplements and essential oils and, see which one wants to come in next. So.
Very good. Awesome. This has been very enlightening for me. And I know that while I mentioned alkaline water and I have a good system that's installed at my sink in my kitchen and so on, this has kind of been a show that I've been excited about doing because I know it was going to lead me into trying structured water for the first time myself. So I appreciate the time that you spent sharing your knowledge with us today. It got me excited. I think it's going to get other people excited as well. And I just appreciate the perspective that you have and the energy that you bring to sharing your journey and your knowledge with people. You can definitely tell that it is a passion, it is your purpose, and I appreciate you being here, and thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Scott. I think it's a privilege to be in communication with somebody who prepares and cares as much about his work as you do. I mean, you are just phenomenal, and you stand out, and I just love the way you put your questions together and the way you get yourself ready. It's impressive. So thank you for getting the word out. And
thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Be well.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye. To learn more about today's guest, visit betterhealthguy.link/wellness enterprise. That's betterhealthguy.link/wellness enterprise. I appreciate your support of the Better Health Guy blogcast series. If you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter as Better Health Guy. The show can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. If you'd like to support the show, please visit betterhealthguy.com/donate. And if you'd like to be added to my newsletter, please visit betterhealthguy.com/newsletters. I'm looking forward to many more shows ahead and appreciate your interest.
Thanks for listening to this Better Health Guy blogcast with Scott, your Better Health Guy. To check out additional shows and learn more about Scott's personal journey to better health, please visit betterhealthguy.com.